He's the $6 trillion man. Big government Joe Biden is promising an avalanche of new spending on top of his massive stimulus plan. Biden wants to expand the role of the federal government in just about every aspect of your life.
My American Families Plan guarantees 4 additional years of public education for every person in America. Universal high-quality preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds, not daycare, preschool. We can't stop there. We're going to add 2 years of community college on top of that. The American Families Plan is going to finally provide up to 12 weeks of paid and medical leave, paid family and medical leave. Plan on giving tax breaks to the working class folks and making everybody pay their fair share.
All right, Juan, here's why Republicans are so suspicious of Democrats pushing socialism. Because Republicans are the only thing standing in the way of Democrats and socialism. Every time you guys get power, you add a new program, you give more free stuff, and it never ends.
Wow. I have the other view here. I remember that the economy absolutely took off under Bill Clinton, for example. I remember that when Barack Obama got in, he had to rescue the economy. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think that the economy experienced tremendous, consistent growth under Obama, not as fast as I know you, Jesse, would have liked, but it was consistent. And I think that right now, when we talk about this Biden program as socialist, I think I've said this several times, so pardon me for repeating it, but since Joe Biden was elected on this agenda, the stock market's up 20%. So that means that the investor class, the CEOs, the bankers, as well as the unions and workers all say, this is a good plan. We don't have a problem with it. The stock market says, let's go, baby. The GDP, it says, let's take off. But, specifics of the plan, like things like universal pre-K, the things, things that mean something to me, like, paid leave, and should mean something to you. You just had a baby. You got a week off. We have paid leave. Joe Biden says in a pro-worker statement, it shouldn't just be for people like you and me. It should be for hourly workers as well. That's good for the American economy. It's true in other developed countries. Why not here?
I support paid leave for you too, Juan. Dana Perino, I think what I was getting at there is that Republicans are the only one pumping the brakes here on Democrats expanding government. Every time they get power, they want to just spend more and grow the government more and more and more. So we're the only ones stopping them. If we weren't here, it would just be a full socialist takeover.
And I think this is actually a more useful direction that this conversation is going beyond just the eye-popping numbers that he wants to spend. It's how does he want to spend it? Why? It's like a whole different shift of having government be in control of even more things. How has that worked out in the past? So you look at Europe in terms of innovation and economic growth. One of the reasons that their militaries are so basically weak and hobbled is because they have all of these entitlements that they continue to build, to grow, and that spending never stops. It's also a problem here. The rest of our budget gets squeezed because we never want to deal with those programs like Social Security and Medicare. And that's true of both parties. But right now, I think what you're seeing is that I think that Joe Biden's agenda, it's already stalling out. And I'll tell you why I think that. He went on a big trip yesterday to Virginia. He was trying to sell his American jobs plan. Not a blip, Jesse. And you already have Democrats who are in tough races in 2022 saying, yeah, I don't think we're going to be for that. And so with the very small margins that they have, they're not going to be able to just muscle this through. And the longer it hangs out there and gets more scrutiny, like what we're doing right now, the more likely it is that it sort of dies on the vine or at least gets pared way, way back.
You think that's true, Katie? You think the Democrats are scared to go along with Joe's plan because they're just going to get shellacked next election?
I think some of that may be true, but I also believe that if the Senate were more heavily Democrat, meaning it wasn't 50-50 and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema didn't have as much power as they do, that they would be more than happy to push through a lot of these things. So I think it's more of a Senate issue than it would be in the House. But on this issue of whose phone is ringing? Just kidding. On this issue of...
It was Juan.
Okay, Juan.
It was Juan.
It was Juan. Okay. So on this issue of the free college, right, community college, Joe Biden's pushing this. At the same time, you have these school districts across the country saying no more advanced math. So free college, but you don't get to actually take advanced courses that may get you to college or get you a scholarship to college. The other thing about this is the cradle to the grave socialism. This is always sold as Americans having more opportunity, right? Paid leave will give more women more opportunity, but it's actually the opposite. It means you have less freedom, you have fewer choices, and the private sector gets completely suffocated because they can't afford these policies. We're seeing it right now with unemployment. These restaurants, they can't hire enough people because people aren't going back to work because they're making more money from the government than they are actually going to work. And so the opposite of these programs is always the truth of less freedom, fewer choices, and more expenses than is being sold by President Biden right now.
Last word goes to Greg Gutfeld.
Just to point out that the GDP and stocks aren't reacting to Joe's tax plan. They're reacting to the pandemic shutdown that is reopening. You always get, this is just eternally true, you always get big gains in an economy, GDP and stock market, after huge losses because you have a lot of turf to expand, to grow until it levels off, and then the growth gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Yes, I'm an economist. Here's the problem with this debate. It's not the 1980s anymore. If you call something socialism, it's not going to persuade a population that has no idea what it means. No one's being educated anymore about socialism. They don't know anything about USSR. They haven't read any history books or world history on socialism. They don't know what it means. So cradle to grave government actually sounds pretty good. It's like, wow, that's awesome. That means the government's going to be with me until I die. I don't have to worry about anything. And the thing is, the reason why they think that way, and it's natural, is because no one's explained to them succinctly the trade-offs. Obviously, this comes with a price, and you need to tell them, okay, if you turn everything over to government, number one, you can't afford it. The country goes broke. And when there's an emergency, number two, let's say like a war, your military will be hogtied. The goods and services will not meet the standards of private industry. So what you pay for, i.e. Amtrak or the mail, is nothing like what FedEx could do. So it all over time goes to hell in terms of quality. The individual is less inclined to achieve greatness if they know if they don't have to, they're still gonna get a free meal and a free X and a free Y. You don't have to work so hard. And then lastly, you just run out of rich people, right? Because either they go broke or they leave. So we need to explain.
Or you could just
go ahead. Sorry.
Or you could just do this. You could just say big tax and spending liberals are racist.
There you go.
That's what the Democrats do. Just call it racism.
That's a good point.
It's much easier.
That would have saved me some time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.